Right, we're going to get onto those comments from Gary Neville there about him being a little boy. But Wirtz faces Luxembourg, while Alexander Isak will feature for Sweden tomorrow against Switzerland, who've had a dreadful World Cup qualifying campaign. But it is a chance for both those guys to find some form. Liverpool paid £225 million combined for those two, Leanne. Why hasn't it worked out so far?
I mean, the Alexander Isak one is an interesting conundrum because he came after not being match fit. Then he was getting brought off at half-time and he's running, box to boxes at the end of the game to get match fit. That seems to have come back and bit him a little bit. But I think the quality is there. We have to also remember with Isak, this is a player that was in Borussia Dortmund's second string team and Real Sociedad. He only had a couple of good seasons in the Premier League. So this goes back to, there's not many number 9s around and there's a massive premium. I think Ekitike has been excellent for Liverpool. And for Ekitike, it's difficult because Isak then came along when I don't think they realised they were going to get Isak late on. Yeah. I think for Wirtz, I understand. I love the opinions of the pundits because that's why we love football. But to call him a little boy is a little bit strong. He's 22 years old, so he is quite young.
Did he mean there just in terms of he felt it was lacking physicality?
Potentially, but then again, you don't have to be the strongest and the tallest. Look at Šeško, he hasn't got off to the greatest of starts, and he's absolutely massive. So, for me, you don't have to be all quick and massive and strong to have an impact. I think right now, Arne Slot, almost, it's admirable that he's playing him through this moment in time. But for a player that cost 120 mil, coming from Bayer Leverkusen, the pressure is there. Liverpool have obviously lost some top quality players in Luis Diaz. Mo Salah's not performing to the levels we know he can. McAllister. So there's a combination here. A lot of the Liverpool players are underperforming, and those are the players that usually can carry a player like Wirtz through. Whereas those players are struggling this year. So, give him a little bit more time. I think give him a season. But I think right now, almost Arne Slot needs to take him out of the firing line because he's trying to play him through this to get him up to the speed of play, but he doesn't look at it. And it's almost being detrimental to Liverpool, isn't it? Yeah. Playing him through this moment, similar to Kirkes playing, and Szoboszlai playing in the right-back position. So I think these are two good quality players. Regardless of how much money they cost, that goes out the window because, yes, people are going to talk about that, but that's what happened to Harry Maguire when he got to Man United. That was the biggest problem. These players are not saying, I'll be taking that money if they ask for that for me. Do you know what I mean? So forget about the price tag. These are two quality players and Wirtz hasn't been at it. There's no denying that. But I do think there's this massive pile-on, for this one player that hasn't been at it. But there's a lot of Liverpool players that haven't been at it this season.
But there's a pile on him because he's done nothing in the Premier League. No goal, no assist. Now, you said, give someone a year. But would you not be worried if you're a Liverpool fan and you're almost a third into the season and he's got no goal involvements in the Premier League?
Yeah, there is a concern there, obviously. But like I said, I think sometimes it takes players a little bit longer to get up to the speed of play. No doubt, no goals, no assists is nowhere near good enough for the amount of money they've paid and the quality that they thought they were bringing in. But I think you have to give him a little bit more time. Yeah, there is a concern there. Obviously, Arne Slot didn't want him to be at this moment in time. No goals, no assists. But like I said, this Liverpool side are very different to last year. He's walking into a Liverpool side that is lacking confidence. A lot of their players, their key players, have been underwhelming this year, and that's the reality.
Is he too lightweight for the Premier League, Florian Wirtz?
No, I don't think he is. I mean, Lionel Messi probably got told throughout his whole career. I'm not comparing the two before people try and say that, but people probably told Lionel Messi he was too small, and look at him. So I think you can have that slight ability, you can be small in the Premier League and agile, but it's about, getting up to the speed of play of the Prem. And, the Premier League is unforgiving. You have to be strong, you have to be physically there. And, it just takes players a little bit longer to adjust. That's the reality. I think if you're asking me this question this time next year, it'll be a different conversation.
Yeah. Because he's had his year by then. You said he needs to have a year. Right, Sky Sports have partnered with Analyses, an app where passionate fans share their opinions on their club. If you want to represent your club, scan the QR code here and visit the Sky Sports app as another option for more details. We can speak, I'm delighted to say, to Liverpool fan Sarah Luca now. Morning, Sarah. Now, here you were nodding along with a lot of what Leanne was saying there, and he's got a game against Luxembourg coming up. Have you ever been more interested in a Luxembourg fixture before?
Never. Probably like Ekitike and Szoboszlai last night. He probably will play well tonight, but I will definitely be watching with interest. I don't think you need me. I absolutely concur. Leanne is saying exactly what I'm about to say. I'll add a bit of flavour, I promise.
Oh, you're too kind. No, we want you here. Even though I'm Man United and you're Liverpool, we can all be friends in this conversation.
Yes, we can.
We definitely need you here. We need a bit of fan input this hour. What I want to ask you, though, is that it seems that with Wirtz coming in and the style of play has changed a bit, hasn't it, in the Premier League this season? All of a sudden, people are going a lot more direct. Set plays are right to the fore. Doesn't really suit Florian Wirtz's game, that, does it? Is that just bad luck or bad judgment?
See, I think it's very interesting because if you look back at footage of the training ground when we were over in Asia in the tour, we were practicing this. We were practicing long throws. We were practicing the kind of setup that the Premier League is now absolutely rolling with. But it looks like we weren't very good at it, and Slott's gone, nah, we'll do our own thing. So we'll see by the end of the season whether that was the right decision. But with Wirtz, I think it's more a problem of our established players. So who could have thought that Mo would be so bad, Van Dijk would be so bad, Konate, I think we could have known he was slipping a little anyway. McAllister's hardly been at it. Really the only players you could talk about playing well is Dom, Subsai, Connor, but he's got a lot to learn, and maybe Gakpo in places. Gravenberch, I feel, should be staying back and being more a defensive midfielder, yet he's piling forward. So is Subsai, so is McAllister. So Wirtz has got no space to play in. He's a master of those half spaces, and there's just no room for him to play. So my problem really is with the setup of the team, potentially, or them not doing their roles, and Wirtz not having the space to do what we know he's great at.
So is that on Arne Slot?
Yeah, I think it's on both. Well, if Slot is telling them, right, we need to give Wirtz space, and they're not giving them that space, then that's a problem. But we've also got Ekitike, right? He doesn't really stay in a 9 position. He likes dropping back, getting into the play, building up play. So it's got very congested. Even when Isak's been on, he drifts off into the Mo space. So there's lots of problems all at the same time, which fundamentally you've got to look at Slot for kind of getting them playing in the way that's going to work for the players we've brought in, rather than the players we had last season that won the league.
And Sarah, you're looking at this team, right? Last year, Arne Slot comes in, wins the league. Is it been a surprise in the second year it's kind of gone so horribly wrong? Because I think people expected this to be the case last year from him coming in, and he adjusted to the league straight away, wins the league, gets that wrapped up. Because the fact that there's so many out-of-form players, it just blows my mind. I was saying give Mo Salah whatever he wants. Give him a 10-year contract. I don't care how old he is. Give him 200 whatever.
Chelsea.
Right. But, and now it just looks like they've just slipped off a little bit.
Yeah, I think this is the problem. Everyone who's saying Slot should go, I do not agree with. I think Slot is a great manager, and I think he will be great at Liverpool. However, there are so many problems that you could never have thought would happen, right? Yes, I thought Mo would miss Trent, and he's missed Trent. Yes,
great point.
we had the awful, losing Jota, which is affecting everybody. But we never thought that they would drop off this badly. Van Dijk has looked poor as well in a lot of games, incredibly poor in the City game. I think he just sulked because he didn't get that goal, and then the whole of the team just didn't kind of look right the entire game. So I think there's a lot of problems that Slot needs to solve. But with the kind of Wirtz problem, I know that we've started talking about that. I think if we're going to form the team around anyone, I think it should be him. We've formed it around Mo before, and I don't think Mo's that person anymore. He doesn't look on it. How long do we give him? We're already 8 points adrift. Do we make sure that he's coming off the bench more?
Well, surely he's got enough credit in the bank.
Sarah said base the whole team around Wirtz.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
That's a big call, Sarah. That's a massive
He hasn't got any goals or assists in the Premier League yet, and you're building your team around him.
So I take offence at that, because there have been some amazing, there would have been assists if our team were on it. If Mo had been on it, he would have had about 3 or 4 goals from this. Like that kind of ballerina Chelsea against Chelsea move, he put it on a plate for Mo and Mo skied it. Now, normally Mo would score those goals. And that has been a real problem. There's also, people are not passing to him. He gets into spaces all the time and they're not finding him. Plus, he's one-touch football and the rest of the team aren't. So we either have to change to accommodate that, because otherwise why did we buy him? Or it's not going to work.
You should be his agent. You're putting together a great
I'm free.
a great case.
I tell you what, I want to get on to something that happened over the summer, because Mo Salah caused a bit of a stir, didn't he, on social media? He almost sent it into meltdown when he took exception to a Liverpool fan account claiming that Wirtz and Isak replacing Luis Diaz and Darwin Núñez was the biggest upgrade in football history. There you go. Remember that one? Anfield edition. Name a bigger upgrade in footballing history. Well, that's kind of come back to bite them a little bit, hasn't it? Would you swap them back right now?
Would I swap them back? No. I never wanted Diaz to go, but we all know that he wasn't happy and wanted more first-team football, and probably thought, I'm going to go down the pecking order. But don't we wish we kept him now? Like, he has real... The thing we're really missing from both those players is the press. So Diaz and Núñez would press all match long. And now we've basically got Dom doing it. Like, literally no one else is doing it. It's very light press, and people are getting through us. And also, obviously, you've got the goals from Diaz. You've got the change-up of bringing Núñez on and having some aerial threats.
We're watching this goal that he scored for Bayern just a couple of days ago. Actually, did you see that one when he scored it basically from the goal line? It was extraordinary how he fit it into the net. It seems like Diaz, he's almost taken his game to another level. Watching that, you must think, we really could have done with him this season.
Yeah, I was gutted when he left. He was on my shirt last season, so I did some content around, if I put a player on my shirt, we're doomed. And Mo is on my shirt this season. So it's all my fault. I'm going to burn the Mo shirt, and then hopefully he'll find. I'll do it live.
Don't you think, though, that there
do it on our show, please?
But don't you think
safely
of them keeping him? Don't you think, Sarah, there was a way of them keeping Luis Diaz? I understand what you're saying. He wanted first more in the 11, but I feel like it was almost like he said he wanted to leave. I know you can't keep players that don't want to be at a club. He said he wanted to leave. Okay, off you go. Like, it was just letting any type of bang average player leave. And he'd probably walk into most 11s, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, I think there's going to be, already there are questions, but there's going to be a lot of questions if we don't win anything this season on recruitment. So obviously, if it's true what I hear, that Slot has less power on sign-off on players than Klopp did, if Slot said, this is how I want to play, the recruitment team have gone off and got these players, and Slot then can't get them working on the pitch, like, who is at fault there? It's probably a bit of both, right? We've all said that we've got recruitment incredibly right in the past, but it feels like the team has got to fundamentally change how they play, and they're not doing it. And if you think about, just back to the question before, like last season, yes, we all thought, oh my God, we're doomed, Klopp's gone, we're going to be like Man United. Sorry.
I liked you till that point.
But that is now happening this season, and it's because I think Slot only spent time with the players to get the best out of them last season. I don't think he instilled his full philosophy and how he wanted them to play. And now he's doing that, but with a different makeup of players, and they're not adapting. That's how I feel it's happening. Because if you take Kirkes, right, he is doing those overlap runs, but Cody has got one play in his locker. He comes inside. He never looks at Kirkes. He never plays that overlap, that ball for the overlap. So we're actually not feeding Ekitike and Isak when they're on. or Mo if Mo then drifts in. So there are loads of problems with kind of the new and the old coming together, which Slot needs to figure out quickly.
Sarah, real pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, Sarah.
You can go back to your day job now as Florian Wirtz's agent. Appreciate you taking the time
My phone's
off.
going.
No, but honestly, I really appreciate your call and do hope he picks it up anyway. Hopefully he'll get some goals tonight. You never know.
He will.
Mikel Arteta's contradictory comments dismissed after Everton versus Arsenal fixture change. Mikel Arteta has faced criticism from sections of the Arsenal fanbase after the Premier League granted the club's request to move their away fixture against Everton forward by 1 day. However, a closer look at Arteta's statements shows there was no real contradiction in his words, only a misunderstanding of priorities. The change means Arsenal will now face Everton on December 20th, rather than on Sunday the 21st, allowing the Gunners an extra day of rest before their Carabao Cup quarter-final against Crystal Palace. From the club's perspective, it's a sensible move to protect player welfare and performance levels during a congested period. Yet for many supporters, the news came as an inconvenience, and in some cases, a financial burden. Fans who had already booked non-refundable travel and accommodation for the original date could now be out of pocket. In response, Arsenal announced that they would provide coach travel to Liverpool for £10 return, but the gesture didn't stop frustration from spilling over on social media. An Arsenal fixture news account on X, formerly Twitter, at AFC Fixture News, summed up the mood. The away match against Everton has been moved to Saturday, December 20th at 8 p.m. thanks to at Arsenal, Mikel Arteta, and at Sky Sports PL. The last train from Liverpool to London departs at 8:12 p.m. Football for the fans. Replies to the post, from an account with over 40,000 followers, were divided. Some supporters even accused Arteta of contradicting earlier comments where he seemed to emphasize the importance of fan welfare. But is that really the case? Having attended the press conferences where Arteta was asked about the scheduling issues before and after the Crystal Palace quarter-final was announced, it becomes clear his comments were taken out of context. Following Arsenal's win over Brighton in the Carabao Cup fourth round, Arteta was asked whether he feared fixture congestion could become a problem. He responded, "I hope not. If we take care of the well-being of both players and our supporters, we should never get to that point. That's our most important value. We have the best league in the world, and we can't lose that by ignoring what makes it special. If we respect that, I'm sure everything will be fine." This was the first time Arteta mentioned both players and supporters together in this specific context, placing them in the same sentence, not necessarily in the same order of importance. Later, when Arsenal were traveling to Prague for their Europa League win over Slavia, the December 23rd date for the Palace match was confirmed. Asked about the potential scheduling clash, Arteta, visibly serious, said, "Hopefully they move the Premier League game, because it doesn't make any sense to play until that late in December. I'm sure they'll make the right decision." When pressed again about the long-term impact of playing 2 matches in 3 days, he clarified his stance. "As I said before, I'm confident the league will apply the right principles, to prioritize the players first, then the supporters, and to make sure things remain fair for all clubs." In other words, Arteta's position has been consistent. His hierarchy, players first, then fans, reflects the practical realities of management. From a sporting point of view, that's not unreasonable. His job ultimately is to give Arsenal the best chance of winning matches, and playing 2 high-intensity games within 72 hours would compromise that goal while increasing injury risks. That said, the disruption to fans is real and shouldn't be dismissed. Arsenal have tried to mitigate the damage, offering affordable coach travel to Merseyside. It's not an afterthought. The club has made similar efforts before. For instance, earlier this season they organized a chartered train service for the trip to Manchester. The pilot program was later cancelled due to low uptake, but supporters were refunded, and coach travel was again arranged at less than half the train fare. Still, some pointed to restrictions on alcohol consumption on those buses as a reason for the lack of enthusiasm among travelers, a small but telling example of the balancing act clubs face between fan experience and logistical responsibility. As someone traveling to Liverpool on the new date to cover the match, it's easy to empathize with supporters' frustration. Plans are disrupted, and expenses add up. Yet, from a footballing standpoint, it's equally clear why the adjustment was necessary. In the end, the accusation that Arteta betrayed his words doesn't hold up. His comments were consistent with his role, a manager whose first duty is to protect his players and the team's ability to compete. While supporters deserve respect and consideration, ensuring player welfare, and by extension, the club's chances of success, inevitably comes first. The debate highlights a broader tension that runs through modern football, the struggle to balance fan experience with the relentless demands of the sporting calendar. For Arteta, it's not about choosing one over the other, but about finding a way to keep both sides moving in the same direction. The scheduling change has sparked broader discussions about fixture congestion and the growing disconnect between football authorities and match-going supporters. While the Premier League's decision ultimately favored Arsenal's sporting interests, it reignited long-standing frustrations among fans who feel that television broadcasters, rather than clubs or supporters, dictate the modern football calendar. Several supporter groups voiced their disapproval following the announcement. The Football Supporters Association, FSA, released a statement calling for greater transparency in fixture scheduling, emphasizing the financial and logistical strain late changes impose on fans. Once again, supporters are being treated as an afterthought, the statement read. When games are moved at short notice for broadcast or scheduling purposes, fans are left out of pocket. This has to change. These concerns have grown louder in recent years as fixture lists become increasingly congested, with Premier League clubs competing in multiple domestic and international competitions. December, in particular, is notorious for its relentless schedule, and managers have repeatedly warned that player fatigue and injuries are becoming inevitable outcomes of such intensity. Arteta's comments, prioritizing player welfare first, then fans, reflect a reality shared by many top-flight managers. Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, and Erik ten Hag have all voiced similar frustrations about scheduling in recent months. Guardiola, after Manchester City's December fixtures were adjusted for television, remarked that the players are not machines, echoing the same sentiment that underpins Arteta's reasoning. Yet, despite the alignment among managers, fans often find themselves caught in the middle. They shoulder the financial and emotional burden of fixture changes while being told those changes are made in the name of fairness or player protection. In practice, those decisions often serve commercial partners first, particularly broadcasters who push for prime-time slots to maximize viewership. From Arsenal's perspective, the fixture change is undeniably beneficial. Playing Everton on the 20th instead of the 21st gives Arteta's side 2 full days of rest before the Carabao Cup quarter-final against Crystal Palace, an important fixture as the Gunners continue their pursuit of silverware on multiple fronts. It also reduces the risk of injuries at a time when the squad has been stretched thin by European and domestic commitments. Internally, sources close to the club maintain that the request for a schedule adjustment was made solely based on player welfare and sporting integrity, not with disregard for supporters. Arsenal's communication staff are said to have worked closely with fan liaison officers to ensure alternative travel options were available, though they acknowledge that such measures can never fully compensate for the inconvenience caused. Meanwhile, the Premier League defended its decision, citing the need to maintain competitive balance across the fixture list. A league spokesperson explained that changes of this nature are reviewed on a case-by-case basis, and that input from clubs, broadcasters, and local authorities is taken into account. However, critics argue that such explanations have become formulaic, offering little real comfort to fans who consistently bear the consequences of late scheduling shifts. The ripple effects of this incident extend beyond Arsenal. Supporter groups from other clubs have pointed to it as yet another example of how fan priorities are sidelined in the modern game. There are renewed calls for an independent review of fixture planning and for a minimum notice period before changes are approved, proposals that have circulated for years but never gained traction. For Arteta, however, the matter seems settled. His focus remains on maintaining squad fitness and momentum heading into a decisive period of the season. While the debate over priorities will continue, his stance, that the health and performance of players must come first, reflects a pragmatic, if unpopular, truth in modern football. In the end, the controversy around Arsenal's fixture change underscores a growing divide between the business of football and the experience of football. Managers like Arteta operate in a results-driven environment where every decision is judged by points and trophies. Fans, on the other hand, live the consequences of those decisions, in time, travel, and loyalty. The real challenge for English football now lies in bridging that gap, ensuring that the pursuit of success on the pitch doesn't come at the expense of the very people who fill the stands.